Welcome, friends. Oh, welcome, friends. Today we are doing another live stream, but with Jura Rose.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Jura
It's me.
Rose. It is you. Is it? Is it you?
It is me. It's Jura Rose.
Jura
with all
Rose.
his petals. In bed.
That's right. Have you not wilted in the winter?
No, not at all. I'm actually in bed with loads of rose petals around me. I'm making this like really, a romantic time.
Just by yourself?
Yeah, I forgot the chocolates though.
I've just had a Freddo. So
really?
I've just had a Freddo. Wasn't as good as an Irish Freddo, I'm sure.
Do you know what? I've never tried an Irish Freddo.
Really?
I don't even know if we have them, to be honest.
I bet they're expensive. I bet they're like 30. What's it? Do you know how there are euros, right? What's the unit below €1? Is it like a tenth? A cent.
Yeah, so it's the same 20 cent, 50 cent, but it's cents. And to be honest with you, I actually prefer English money in the sense that, like 20p's, 50 all have their own distinct shape. Whereas Irish money, I mean, all of it looks the same half the time. And you have to really look at the number sometimes, especially if you're in a rush.
Yeah, like homogenized, standardized.
It is.
It's handy with British money because it's just like it's all different shapes and sizes, isn't it?
Yeah. And do you know why it's easy that way? Have you ever done that? It's in your pocket and you can just feel it. When you can pull out 50 pence. You can't do that with Irish money or euro.
Yeah,
I can't anyway.
You can do it by smell with the copper coins.
Really?
You can do it by smell. You can smell copper coins a mile away. Like I think you can anyway. They absolutely reek.
I find, when you ever touch a copper coin, it makes you feel dirty. There's that metal smell. I feel always like, ugh.
Yeah, like it's coming off on your fingers. Grim.
No,
it's not. It's not ideal. Like it's not ideal. So today we are doing a live stream, clearly, and it's just going to be me. It's live stream 100 though.
Congratulations.
Thanks very much. Jura Rose was asking before we came on, how the fuck have you done 100 of these? I'm tired already. It wears you out. It wears you out. It's good. That's why I always do them at this time of night, so that like I can just like after I'm finished, I just turn over and go to sleep.
It's like, if people are like, how do you sleep? I'll just do a live stream, Helps
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Who needs sleeping pills?
Yes, exactly. I was looking at some Valerian Root the other day.
Really?
Valerian Root. I was looking at it. I was like, I don't need this at all. I have other methods. I've got my medications and I've got like the streams, especially.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty set. But I was thinking, can you use Valerian Root in a perfume?
I've never heard of that. I'll be honest. I've never heard of that. There could be, because there's always some. I don't know. There'll be always some obscure oil out there. It's whether you can use it. Because, remember I was making a big fuss about Palo Santo last year. That got banned.
Yes. Has it? The
essential oil is prohibited, so you can't use it. So any Palo Santo is going to be a complete accord. To be fair, though, I remember Houdini talking about that on his Les Odorants, and I agree. It's a weird material. Like, it's very strange. It's like, whatever you do with it, it's always got this weird arm poking out somewhere it shouldn't be, if that makes sense. Like, you can do something with the minty, woody part, but then the milky sort of condom bit, you're like, that shouldn't be there, but you can't hide it. Or then you can do something with that part, but then you can't hide the minty part. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has these. It's like a monster with all these weird arms sticking out. So it's just like, it's hard to tame.
Like when you squash a spider.
Sorry?
Like when you squash a spider.
Yeah.
And it's like it's all crumpled up, and it's got like a stray limb sticking out.
Yeah, it's odd, and it's very strong. And to be fair, the actual material itself, the oil, if you get you can tell it's Palo Santo, but you can probably do better with using cedarwood and milky materials to make it just smell more like it does. So
Yeah.
But yeah, like the Valerian Root, I honestly, I've never heard of that, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's out there.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Like, there's worse out there, isn't there?
Oh yeah.
You know, there's worse, like cadaverine and stuff like that. Just for a little bit of context, if nobody knows, Jura Rose is a budding perfumer and has many oils and makes many perfumes.
I know. I know. I sound like something from Breaking Bad. You know, all these oils. Do you know what? To
Yes.
be fair, I do get like these weird looks from delivery drivers. You know, delivering all these beakers and chemistry equipment and stuff. They're like, oh, what's going on here then?
As long as you don't answer the door and you're tightly whitey, you'll be all right.
I know. I never wear a tracksuit because it just looks dodgy. You know. You know. I tried to dress up as arty-farty as I can, so they think, well, maybe something weird's going on. You know, it's acceptable for him.
Some kind of like, you know, artist or something, or some kind of mad scientist. Yeah. Which is essentially what you are, to be fair.
Yeah. It is, but you have to be careful.
Yeah. I need to quickly say something to someone in the chat. Spaced out. Shout out to Spaced Out. I bought that Bois d'Argent cologne that you pointed out to me. This is the second time that you have pointed out a vintage Dior to me. I bought it and it's absolutely amazing. It's incredible. It's I'm going to do a comparison video, but it's sharp and it's pristine and it feels like it's much more defined than the Eau de Parfum version of Bois d'Argent. It's absolutely brilliant, but I did want to say thank you to Spaced Out if you didn't see the video, because I did say thanks in the video too, but I see him here, or they. So thank you. But yes.
Yeah, Spaced Out's like your little personal assistant now. He's like telling you all these amazing deals. You know? It's
incredible. Both times, like two perfumes that I've wanted for ages, especially Dior's as well, because I'm secretly a massive Dior fan. You know, I prefer Dior to like other houses and stuff. But I've got the original. I'd
say like I'm historically probably more of a Dior fan. I know like people usually go for Chanel. I don't know if it's what you grew up around. My family always wore more Dior. See, my dad wore Fahrenheit. My mother wore the original J'adore. That was for like 5 years. So I had memories of Dior fragrances, if that makes sense. No one in my family was wearing Chanel No. 5 or anything like that. I wasn't. I mean, I like Chanel. I know you're not a big fan, but I wasn't. You know, I'd say Dior always appeals to me a bit more because of the nostalgia.
Yeah, no, I do. I get what you're saying. I think that based purely on the scents and the profile of the scents, that Dior for me is much more attuned to my whole aesthetic and personality and everything. There are some Chanels which I absolutely love, including Antaeus and Egoist Cologne Concentrate, and I wouldn't part with them for the world. But there are more Diors which I love like that in that way. I've been doing my top 20 pickups. I've drawn up a short list. I won't go through them, but my top 20 pickups of 2022, and there's a Chanel on there, and I don't know if there is a Dior on there. So it's interesting. It's interesting how it's very interesting. I mean, to be fair, I've bought so many perfumes this year; it's ludicrous. I'm hoping.
I remember last year you said. I remember you saying you're not buying any perfume this year.
I remember saying that as well. That was a long time ago.
Look, I think. Do you know there was a guy who came into the shop yesterday, and I think he owns a tire business, and he's probably I'm not obviously, but he basically went for it yesterday. He got fragrances for all families and friends and himself. He didn't hold back, and he said, "Look," he says, "if something makes you happy," and he says, he says, like you get all these people who get really tight arsey over things. He says, "It's understandable if you can't afford it, but if something makes you happy, you just get it." He says, "Life's too short." And he's saying like people who's he gets a lot of rich people coming driving their big 4x4s into his like tire garage, and they skimp on the tires. They get like the most cheapest, like, you know, there's barely anything on them. He's like, this is your safety, especially in Ireland with the roads, the ice. He's like, this is your safety, and you're skimping on it. You know what I mean? It's just like you can't take money with you anywhere. Just enjoy it. You know, if you can.
It's a good point. It's a good point. If you've got the ability to, it's probably a good idea. You know.
Yeah. So I think you've done the right thing. You found some good things this year. You know, that's right. Especially that derby. Come on.
That is, I'm pretty much loving that. Like, there's been a few things that have been like sent or gifted, which I've been pretty happy with as well. But it's all a big mystery. We will have to wait and see for the video, which I'm probably going to put out at some point next week. Mm-hmm. You know,
I don't even know what's on it, so I'll be looking forward to it.
Thank you very much. I am. I also need to give the people some context about Jura Rose as well. Jura Rose works in a place in Ireland, Ireland's biggest niche perfumery shop.
Only.
Well, then the point stands. It is the biggest. It's also the smallest.
You know, when you say the biggest, it's actually tiny. You know, like, like when you go in there, like it's. Oh God, your bedroom's probably bigger than this place. You don't need much space, even though we've got like 350 perfumes in there. Like, stock takes up space, but perfume itself doesn't. Actually, I was talking to someone I work with, and she was in Italy. And she said she went into this little perfume shop. It was just this little moody old Italian lady. And she said that it must have been the size of a pantry, this place. And she had like 400 perfumes in this thing. And they were all stacked. You know, like the bottles were like scrunched up right next to each other so you couldn't see the labels. And only she was standing in there, and the amouage was on the floor and everything. And like, you can't go in there and browse. You just have to say, like, have you got anything? And she's sort of like skimming in this little thing to get them. And I'm thinking, God, that's ridiculous. Like, they're small, but then there's like, that's just a cupboard.
Yes. And some like little old woman. I quite like the idea of a little old woman in a tiny shop in like deepest Italy with like all of these outrageous perfumes.
And they, you know, some type of places, especially, you know, they do all like paper receipts.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like so. But I heard, because Maria, my boss, she went over to. She's a perfumer and she's a big collector. Like, she's got a massive vintage collection. The thing is, like, they know, like, they have all these crazy vintages in Italy, but they know what they should go for. That they're not stupid. Like, you don't think you're going to go there and pick them up cheap. You know, they know that, you know, this is rare and they will sell it for you for that price. So they're not stupid.
No, it's a shame they're not stupid, to be fair. They're the best kind of sellers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, what have you been wearing today, Jura Rose?
I wore Dear Man by Amouage.
Ooh.
And I can just like 40% smell it because I'm still a bit anosmic.
Right.
Last week. But it was nice. It was enjoyable for the first half an hour. I could smell it.
It was. Yeah. Have you had the I've got a bottle of it. I'm trying to reach it without destroying everything I own. Let's see. Nope, that's not happening. So what was it? Did you have the big C? The cod?
I don't know. I could have, you know. I could have. The thing is that when you take tests, it doesn't ever come up, but all the variants are changed. It's like, to be honest with you, this whole COVID thing, I don't know what it's like everywhere else in the world, but in Ireland, it's like everyone's just forgotten, don't care. If I said I had COVID now, I go, oh, okay. Whereas last year, people would be like running from me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's people have just, once they've got their freedom this year, they've just gone with it. You know?
Yeah.
They don't really care anymore.
No, it is. It's crazy. It's crazy how quickly it's turned around, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, considering what it was like this time 3 years ago, when people were just starting to get an inkling of what it was, you know.
Yeah.
And then it hit, and everyone was like, "Oh God, this is the worst thing ever. We're all going to die." And then we didn't.
Yeah.
So that was nice. At least we didn't all die. We have lived. But people losing their sense of smell. I was watching something on the news about there's this clinic in the northeast of England, or is it down south? It's somewhere in England. And you can go there and they will train you how to smell again. Because apparently it destroys nerves. That's how it works. It destroys nerves.
I know, it's horrible. It's horrible. I sometimes feel like I destroyed my own nerves because, you know, obel soil.
Do I know what?
Obel soil.
Oh, obel soil, yes.
Yeah, I had a bit of congestion early on. And I was breathing that and that stuff. I mean, I was stupid. Even Freddie was like, "What are you doing? You're destroying your nose." He's like, "There's medications for this. Use nasal spray and stuff."
Yeah.
But that's.
Did you bleach your nose?
Sorry?
Did you bleach your own nose?
I don't know. God knows what. I feel sorry for my nose. And to be honest with you, when I've been working in that shop for the last 2 weeks, nearly every day, and just when you're smelling all day long, talking about things all day long, and it's very intense at the moment, like, my God, it just, you go a little bit nose blind anyway, you know?
Yeah.
You really do. So
you will do with the amount of alcohol that is in like the perfumes. You know what I mean? I
know, I'm practically drunk after the time. You know?
Oh. It's outrageous. It's like when you're in a department store and after you've smelled about 3 or 4 fragrances, because what they do is they spray it and then they're like, "Yeah, smell it," and you smell it straight away and you get partial whiffs of it, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, if you do that 3 or 4 times, you can't smell anything after a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember
the alcohol does numb the nerve.
Sorry?
The alcohol. So you know when you spray something and you put it straight up to your nose, the alcohol will numb the nerves.
Yes.
So really, you should, like, when I spray something, give it to someone, I would like just wave it in the air, give it, you know, a good couple of seconds. Because I've made that mistake, you know, you're not thinking, you hand it to them and not tasting anything. And I'm like, crap, I'm like, just go outside, you know, get a bit of fresh air, and then they smell it again, you know? So.
You've got to be careful. I remember watching a video by Dava where Dava was like, you should only ever smell 2 or 3 perfumes when you go to the department store. And I thought, that's not enough. I go there for hours at a time. I remember when we went to Manchester,
was it?
Exactly. Excuse me whilst I hydrate. But yes, exactly. We smelled hundreds. I remember me and you at the end of the day standing. What brand was it? It was that brand that Bri really likes.
Aesop.
Aesop, that's right. Aesop. We were smelling that and we were stood there and the girl was going through them and I was sitting thinking halfway through, I'm like, these are either extremely weak or I'm like, my nose is like dying here. You know?
Yeah, but at that point we had people that tugging at us, like, oh, come on. We had, you know, like the non-fanatics with us as well, remember?
Yes.
And they've just about had enough. So,
yeah.
Which is understandable. I mean, we were intense.
We went for it big time. It was huge. It was massive.
But that was good.
Oh, yeah. I have just sprayed my Jubilation 25 on my arm, and it's the first time it's been sprayed in a long time.
Is yours a vintage?
Well, I'm not getting it back out because I've just put it away and it's in a docket. But it's not the magnetic cap. It is a magnetic cap. It's not the non-magnetic cap.
Okay.
So it's not the original, but it is an older bottle. I believe it's like a 2013.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you know what? I haven't know. There's people I've known who've loved that fragrance for years, and they've been loyal to that fragrance, and they have said it has changed. It's got more weaker.
Yeah.
And it's just, not just that it's in terms of performance, but also just smell. Do you know what I mean? It's gone a bit flat. Now, I've never smelt the vintage, to be fair, but there's people I trust, noses I trust, and they said, look, it has changed.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know. And I think that was during Christopher Chong's time. It could be due to, just regulations and stuff. I couldn't see them just doing it for money because it's not very an expensive formula anyway.
Is it an expensive one or is it cheap?
Well, half of it's a cheap laundry musk.
Outrageous.
Half the formula. But the thing is, it makes sense. I was talking to someone who's actually might be working in Jura in London. They're really into perfume, and we were saying about Bertrand Duchefort. He has this thing where he really packs lots of notes into a perfume, but they have space. And part of how he does that is he sort of doesn't uses lots of musks. He's really clever with musk, and he puts them at a very high dosage because it gives the space for everything, if that makes sense. Whereas if you just put loads of ingredients in, it will just smell dense and very heavy and not very perfumey. So he is clever that way, and it's just how he uses the musks, and he uses them very high dosages, higher than normal, and that gives him his style. It's just clever.
I was thinking that about Timbuktu because he did Timbuktu, didn't he?
Yes.
So I was thinking that about Timbuktu. Timbuktu smells like it's got room. You know what I mean? It smells like a light smell in a big room.
Mm.
As if something's diffused into the room. And I was like, this is nice and I like it, but I thought it might be Isoe Super at first. But it definitely has that kind of, and mine's the vintage version, mine's the older version. It's not an original, but it's not the latest packaging. When people started going mad about reformulation, it's strange. I need to spend more time with that. I've also got, is it Zing or Zonka? No, I've got Zonka, and I need to spend time. Sorry,
what's the oud one he does for L'artisan? What's it called?
Oud. Does anybody in the chat know?
Oh, I've heard you speak about it before. I was talking about it today, and I completely had a long day. Excuse me. But that also has that sort of, as I said, like that. Do you know? People talk about Super Palatin. That one, oddly, it's not very jubilation in the sense of how he's made it, if that makes sense. For me, that's very cocoa-esque. It's that sort of classic sheep. Like it hasn't got an overdose of, like I was saying, musks with all these intricate spices and fruits and honey and incense and woods. How he does it, his other stuff, like a lot for L'Artisan and jubilation. That one is a little bit like of a departure for him. He does another one as well for MDCI called La Belle Helene, and that smells like a pear dessert.
Pear dessert?
Yeah, it's like a dessert in France. It's like they poach the pears, and I think they have it with ice cream. I can't remember, but it actually does smell like, it's not too sweet. I don't find it too gourmand, but it's like a floral pear. It's got a really nice pear note. And I know the material he's using. He's an overdosing a certain material. But that one as well, the ones he done for MDCI, almost, unless you told me it was Bertrand Duchefort, I probably wouldn't have guessed. Whereas, excuse me, Umbra Topici, which is a Pierre Bourdon, that's, as soon as you smell that, you just know that's the man who made Cool Water, Green Irish Tweed.
Yeah.
It's as clear as anything.
So was the oud one called Al Oud?
I think so. Yeah, it was that simple.
By L'Artisan Parfum, yeah. Allard, Ramsey, and Bry came through there with the name.
Yeah.
It's I haven't smelled that one. I don't think. I'm still. I am still.
I think you'd like that. I haven't smelt it either, but I've heard it's. I think it's something you'd like. I think
you sell L'Artisan in the shop?
Huh?
Do you sell L'Artisan in the shop?
No, I'd love to. But you know, okay, I'll tell you something. One thing you learn is distribution's a different game when it comes to perfume, and it's very tricky.
Okay.
Like, for instance, you know, Nasamato, they used to send it through the UK to us in Ireland because they thought Ireland's just an extension of England. Ever since Brexit, you know, honestly, it would cost the owners of the shop an arm and a leg through tax because they were sending it through the UK. But now they're sending it from the Netherlands, which makes sense because it's in Europe. So the perfume distribution is a complete, honestly, it's crazy. It's a whole hidden world out there that's just, it's cutthroat, it's tough. Like, we would love like brands like, even like a lot of people say, "Oh, get Maison Francis Kurkdjian," because I must have about 20 people a day asking me for Baccarat Rouge. Well, you don't sell it. You don't sell it. It's not here. You can't get it in Ireland. But they won't because they're with Harvey Nichols, you see, and they have an exclusive agreement with Harvey Nichols, so no one else can use them. You know.
Yeah.
It's little things like that, and L'Artisan, all these brands. Serge Lutens are really hard.
Yes, I know this. Yeah, I'm aware of Serge Lutens being absolutely batshit when it comes to perfume. Like,
they're really hard to deal with. I mean, you know who I talk about, my boss. She's really passionate about perfume. She loves all these brands. She has them. But, you know, just doing it on a business level is completely different.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I know what you mean.
Some brands are really nice to work with, and some aren't. I'm not going to say the bad ones, but I will say the good ones. Andy Tower is amazing, by the way. That man is like, any problems, you email him and he does it all by himself. You know, he deals with all the emails, he sends out all the stock. Well, he's not just doing the perfume, but the whole business behind it, you know, like every delivery's on time, everything's in order. If there's ever like a smash bottle, he's apologetic. He'll send out 2, 3 ones. He's very like that. He's a really, really top guy. And it just makes me, I kind of know the brands I really want to support more after seeing, you know, from behind the scenes. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Like, you can see who's passionate. Filippo Sorcinelli, really good as well, I must say. He sent us this weird, strange card. It's the strangest Christmas card I've ever seen in my life. It's like he's talking about misery and like this weird poetry thing that doesn't make sense. And the English is really bad, so I don't know if he just stuck it in like Google Translate. But then he sent like this special bottle of Prosecco and this like panettone from his local village, just out of the blue, just for Christmas, to say thank you and everything. You know,
yeah.
It's just these little touches from some really good brands. You know, you have to spend time.
Is it the smaller ones?
Do you know what? Yes. We deal with. There's 2 big brands we can deal with. I'm going to say one of them is a nightmare. I'm not going to say.
I know what brand it is. Can I say?
No, because I've never told you.
All right.
You can guess, but I'm not telling you.
You've told us one of them. I know which brand you hate dealing with. I know which brand that you hate dealing with, but I won't say.
No, I don't. It's just, I know a lot of people love them in the chat as well, but they're just, but I don't know if it's necessarily it could be just how the distribution is working through us. You know, there's different routes.
Yeah.
But that brand we've had for a while, and they've definitely changed for known reasons. So
outrageous. More tales from the shop. The people are loving it.
Yeah. So everyone support Andy Tower. Good guy.
Andy Tower. It has one of those deals like what you were saying about MFK, about how MFK has like an exclusivity deal, like a monopoly. Andy Tower's got one of those in the UK from Les Santa.
Oh, okay.
And they have his monopoly in the UK. Unfortunately, you can't, because I once got in touch with him and I was like, it was a long time ago, and I asked him about Lone Star Memories, and he did get back to us.
Yeah.
He was like, it is unfortunately discontinued. And then Zhao from Scented Moments, his friend from Portugal, this was before we left the EU. His friend from Portugal's got a perfume shop called Embassy Perfumes, and it's a really good shop, and he ships all over the EU. If people want to buy from him, and he's got some good stuff. But he had the last remaining bottle of what I can tell in the entire world of Lonesome Rider, which is like the sequel to Lone Star Memories, and it's very, what's it like? It's got like a cola vibe, but also like a diesel-y kind of vibe. It reminds me a bit of Fahrenheit. Imagine Fahrenheit crossed with M7.
Oh, okay. So it's slightly medicinal, is it?
Yeah, slightly medicinal, but I think Lone Star Memories are slightly medicinal anyway. But Lonesome Rider's got a slightly medicinal sort of vibe. Here it is.
Yeah.
That doesn't come with a label on. The label was like wrapped around the neck in some little tie, which I obviously lost because, of course, I did. But this is it. It's just a lone bottle.
Do you know who Tower's really popular with in Dublin? Because we're obviously the only ones that sell them. So I see a lot of the people who are getting these things, like students. There's like a couple of universities in Dublin. They really love his stuff. I think it's because they're reasonably priced as well. Like for us, like a Lady Desert Moroccan is 130 euro, or Lone Star's 130 euro. You know, compared to some other brands out there, it can be over 200. And they're nice quality perfumes, and I think they're like, when you're a student, you want something that looks a bit quirky. In the bottles, that you get these sort of pentagon bottles and stuff. The only issue with some of the Towers is the sprayers. There's sometimes like Au Coeur de Desert. I don't know if anyone has Au Coeur de Desert out there. If the spray is not working properly, there's a lot of ambroxan in it. And ambroxan builds up. It's a powder in just its natural form, and there's so much ambroxan in Au Coeur de Desert that it builds up in the pipe, and sometimes and you can actually see it outside of the pump. And it can sometimes jam it. So that can happen. It doesn't mean like usually it happens. You just need to sort of wipe it, clean it, and just sadly, it's just how it is.
I better get through the bottle quick.
Yeah, but the other ones, I know people saying the sprays are bad, but it's just Au Coeur de Desert. There might be a little problem for people because it's just the ambroxan basically comes out of solution and it just builds up like a white. It's like it's like a white powder.
So is it like little flakes? Because I've got a bottle of B Men, right? And in my bottle of B Men is this like loads of like white flake. Literally looks like a snow globe. Like when I shake it, like it's not little particles; they are big particles.
Do you know if B Men Angel? I've never heard of ethyl maltol, and there's a lot of ethyl maltol in those. And I think there'd be enough. It could be the ambroxan as well, because see, a lot of them are packed full of ambroxan, and usually ambroxan comes out of solution easily. I've never heard of ethyl maltol coming out. It dissolves quite well. That's why in perfumes they don't just use alcohol; they use other things. You have to, But see, Andy Tower is an indie perfumer, and there's little things in terms, and he's a chemist. He's not a stupid guy. I'm not saying this at all. He probably, it's just one of those things you don't expect it when you make the perfume over time. It will build up. And you can't test this until it actually goes out, and you actually have the product out there. The thing is usually perfumers, or they know that you're taught ways around that, okay, that's not going to be stable over a certain amount of time, so you need to add maybe a little bit of DPD DPG, sorry, not DPD. Do you know I said DPD? We had a lot of online orders today.
Orders, yeah.
It's messing with my brain. But DPG, and there's other things called IPM, isopropyl mistrate, which, by the way, is used by doctors to cure head lice in kids. It's fully safe. You can put it in your hair. It basically suffocates the head lice. And you can buy it really cheap to any mothers out there. Put it in your kid's hair. Completely safe. Yeah, that you have to put these other things in there to keep it stable. Sometimes it gets overlooked because remember, these perfumes is chemistry. You've got all these molecules in there, and the more you put in, especially naturals, the more complicated it gets. So sometimes you just can't foresee these things.
Yeah.
And again, like you said, the B man, how old is that? They probably didn't expect someone to be having it after like 20 years anyway.
It is like 20 years old, to be fair. I'll give you that. It is like 20 years old. So I know what you're saying. They weren't expecting it, but there are other perfumes I have which are much older that don't have that problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, a lot of old vintages usually go a bit darker in colour, or
that's the vanilla, isn't it?
It's the indole sometimes reacts. You can have aldehydes reacting. It's the vanillin. The material discolors over time. It actually does discolor, but that's natural. The smell doesn't really change. It just makes it. So when you look at some of them vintage and you say, "Oh, that looks really dark."
Yeah.
If it has enough vanillin in there, it probably wasn't that dark originally. It's just got progressively. Even like this has nothing to do with light. It could be stored in the box dark, but it will get slightly darker.
Yeah,
that's just, but it won't affect the smell, so it'll be fine.
So what is that that's causing that? Why does vanillin get darker over time?
But you're going into actual chemistry and how it reflects light and stuff like that.
Right. Is it too much?
That's too much. That's too much for me in my bed after a long day dealing with frantic men. Wanting perfumes for their wives and asking their sons if they think it's good.
Can you see my screen at the minute as I will show you?
Yeah.
I will show you what has happened to my B man. Give us 2 seconds. Where are we? Cam. Oh, that's a duck. Solo layout. Let's have a look. There we are. So you're still there, aren't you?
I am.
Oh, all right. Right, look, can you see? All right, keep an eye on it. Can you see the particulate matter? No, because I've got filthy paw prints on it.
Do you know, Eugene, if he's watching this, he's having a bit of a moment seeing all those fingerprints. He's going to actually send you out a microfiber cloth like for Christmas.
I've got a muslin cloth. I've got a muslin cloth.
Go on, use it. Come on.
I will use it.
Let's not let Eugene down. He's just...
That's right. I'll see if I can. I'll send you a picture on the phone. It literally looks like Dandruff. Can you see it?
It's D-man. Dandruff, man. Huh?
Dandruff.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
And it's a particulate matter for me.
It is. It could be the ambroxan. I'm not sure. It could be many things. It could be many things.
Could be dandruff. It's obviously not my dandruff, is it? Do you know what I mean? Jesus.
And also, a lot of them old sprays are quite... I think there's quite a lot of charm. Have you ever seen them sort of old bottles? And they didn't really... Like, now there's a lot more care into, like, the actual... the little spray thing that goes inside the glass. Like, it's usually transparent now. Then, like, the pump... Then... Like, they didn't really care. It used to be white plastic, all the materials. They'd put any old metal. There's probably lead in them. They didn't care. Sometimes that can dissolve. Because even when you use dropper pipettes, like the pipettes I have to use when I use my materials in dilution, you have to be very careful that there has to be a very specific type of silicone. Because sometimes it can dissolve the materials in the alcohol.
Yeah.
And that can cause... Coumarin also can go out of solution.
Right, that's very, very popular.
Yeah,
coumarin's like used a lot, isn't it?
It is, and that's very hard to You can't just dissolve that in alcohol. You know, that can sometimes come out of the solution.
So, are there some materials, right, that you have to dissolve into something else first and then dissolve into alcohol?
You don't have to. Like, for instance, Mimosa Absolute is you have to dissolve it in IPM. You know that stuff I said you put in your hair, isopropyl mystery. Now you can dissolve so much in that and then dissolve it in alcohol again, but there's no point of doing that. I don't, it's just you just dissolve it in the IPM. So no, there's no. I've never really heard of people doing that. You just dissolve it in whatever solvent you need to.
Yeah.
So some materials like are very easy to dissolve. Let me think of one. What am I thinking? Musks. Usually a lot of musks. Well, some musks you can't use alcohol. Galaxolide is one. Ethylene brassylate is another one. They won't dissolve into alcohol. Tonalide musk, which Frederick Mao uses a lot, they dissolve very nicely in alcohol. Yeah. Do you like? I was going to ask, do you like Vetiver Extraordinaire by any chance?
I do. I've got a bottle.
Do you know that the musks in Vetiver Extraordinaire and Geranium Palmaceau are almost identical?
Really?
Yeah. Almost identical. The musk.
Two different perfumers, though, isn't it?
Sorry?
Is it two different perfumers?
No,
Or did Bourdon make them both?
It's the same, isn't it? Geranium Palmaceau is Dominic Ropion, isn't it? And then
Yeah, but Vetiver Extraordinaire. Oh, no, it's Vetiver Extraordinaire, not Pierre Bourdon.
No, it was Ropion.
All right. Oh, that's the night.
Yeah.
Dominic Ropion definitely made the night. Hold on a second, because I've got Vetiver Extraordinaire somewhere. So do you think that, both Ropion, everyone's saying it was Dominic Ropion, so it must have been Dominic Ropion.
Another thing, many fragrances that we like don't have any musks in them.
I'm not as a perfume fan, it's one aspect of perfume that I'm not. It's one style of perfume that I'm not hugely into, like musk. Just musk perfumes, like Musk Ravageur. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
Like Musk Ravageur. I'll tell you something as well. My Musk Ravageur, I've got a 10 ml of Musk Ravageur, right, and it's got red sediment in it.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
I remember you saying that.
It's very strange.
Yeah. Like Thierry de Hermes has no musk in the formula. And when I say musk, I'm not talking like I get a lot of people come to the shop saying they don't want anything musky, and usually what they mean is either damp or animalic. But musk in itself, like when a perfumer talks about musk now, they talk about like white musks. So like what stuff you put in fresh linen, that type of thing. It's that type of sort of clean. Like when you have a wash, just smell your sheets afterwards, and you usually smell galaxolide, which is the musk that's in Jubilation 25, which makes up half of the formula. Very readily used, cheap musk, smells very pleasant. It's nice. But like things like Thierry de Hermes doesn't have any musk in the formula. What's the fragrance? Black Orchid from Tom Ford has no musk at all. There's no musk in the formula. And it's just the reason being is because there's so much patchouli in that. The patchouli acts like the musk in the base.
Yeah.
And that's a really interesting one. And I found that out for Maria, who's the perfumer who owns a shop. When she was studying in Grasse, she got to do GCMS of many fragrances, and she chose Black Orchid on the first time because it was a fragrance she loved. And she said that she was so surprised that there was not one drop of musk in that fragrance. And you would have thought there was, because there is what you associate with a musky base. But it's just that there's such a big dose of patchouli in that fragrance. It itself acts like a musk. So really, and she says, she was taught you always have to put musks. Perfumers, make sure you understand your musks and you work around those to really finish a fragrance. And she was like, this was completely against what she was taught. And there's no musk in this. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So sometimes the rules are broken for good reason, though. But I think that takes experience to know when to do such a thing.
Yeah. Why is musk so good for base?
It's one, they can act as a fixative, but two, it actually helps round things out and the feel of a fragrance, because they don't just pop up in the base; they're always there in the background. And some musks aren't so weak. Some are much weaker smelling than others. Some are very strong. Like I said, Tonalid musk, which is in Geranium Pour Monsieur and Overdose, that's strong. As soon as I spray that, I can smell the musk.
Yeah.
But they create effect. They can make something smell more floral, more dry, even sweetness. There's one called Macrolide, which makes everything smell a bit more vanilla-y. It does create an effect. And sometimes if you pick the wrong musk, it can make something smell very wrong. So imagine you're doing a really white floral with jasmine and tuberose, and you want it very light and pretty. But then you put like lots of Macrolide in, which is the vanilla one. It would just create this weird imbalance that the vanilla shouldn't be there and make it smell more like, I don't know, like a classic sheep or something,
Yeah. So Musk Ravageur, because I was talking about Musk Ravageur there. What? Because obviously it didn't have real musk in, right? And it was giving off big real musk like vibes, What was the musks that were in there?
So I think the musk, that one he's going for. So it's like what we would call it, if you're a perfumer, what you would call a musk, being again those white musks. There will be those in there, but that wasn't the point. I don't think they were trying to make. It was more musk of what we, in terms of a general sense of like body musk, like just that sense of skin.
Right.
And it did have some animalis, which is that stuff is in Kuros and
the big
Kuros like that,
molecules.
which is, by the way, a Simrise material, and Maurice Roussel works for Simrise, which makes sense.
Right.
And it was just that, and it's giving that sort of animalistic feel. But he was trying to sort of counter that with the vanilla and the cinnamon. A bit of it has a classic feel because there's obviously the vanilla and there's a bit of bergamot on the top. So instantly people say Shalimar. Whenever you do that, people think Shalimar. We just can't get away from that association. It's like, when you smell lots of aldehyde, you think Chanel number 5 or number 22. It's just that fragrance has such a distinct DNA that anything slightly goes close to that, you just associate with that. If that makes sense.
Yes.
It
does.
Yeah. But I think Musk Ravageur was an interesting fragrance. I heard it was more animalic, probably because it had more animalis then, and they just changed it and made it, okay, look, this is too much for people's taste anymore. Let's just make it a bit more of a cookie, Yeah,
it does smell like that to me, I've got to be honest. There's a little bit of vial comes out in it, but it's not like anything. It's not anything that like sort of like puts me off at all, And I can't be put off. I'm not like this animalic. Oh Christ! That was a mini Fragger Lunch. If anybody was interested, I can be put off still to this day. I haven't been spoiled. I can still be outraged. But I want to ask you about something actually. While we're talking about while we are talking about materials, give me a second. I'm applying one to my skin right now. Have you ever heard of the brand Ostens?
Yeah. Is it like they've got the patchouli heart?
Yes.
Yeah. And you've got those little oils with it and stuff. I've never smelled their oils. I don't know if they just dilute them or what the game is.
I have got, this is the Preparation Fragrance Oil Cedarwood Heart IFF LMR.
Yeah.
You haven't smelled this. I got the Impression Cedarwood Heart. And this is the little oil, and it comes with a tiny little application stick, which is very delicate and made of glass. It's very woody. It smells a lot like. It smells a lot like. What does it smell a lot like, Richard? It smells a lot like Royal Oud.
Oh, okay.
It smells a lot like Royal Oud, and I think IFF must have been the house that got the contract for that, because this material is extremely similar to that.
Yeah. It's cedarwood. That makes sense because, well, LMR, them naturals, they're quite nice. Some of them, I have a couple. I can't remember which ones I have. They are available. Some, like many of them, are available. They sell them and they try to really push them. But they do some really good ones. Like if you're on the hunt for nice quality natural materials, and they do a lot of CO2 extractions, for example. And when you want things like pink pepper, CO2 is the way to go, really. Because the CO2 essential oils and stuff, it just is, they're pretty, it doesn't smell like pepper at all. It's just this terpenic. I mean, you can use them in certain ways, but if you want pepper, you go for the CO2. But the cedarwood, people say they get pencil shavings. I have 3 different types of cedarwood. So Virginian cedarwood is the most pencil shaving-y type one. And that smells really like dry, dusty, like you've got sawdust almost. Yeah. But there is a creaminess to it. Texan cedarwood's a tiny bit more smoky. It's a bit more fatter, more well-rounded. Slightly, I get like a more cacao-y. It doesn't smell like chocolate, but it's almost going into the texture of cacao, like the powder. But then Atlas cedarwood is completely different. That stuff is closer to Amyris than it is to Virginian cedarwood. And Amyris is that sort of, replacement for sandalwood. And that has a very sort of more creamy, lactonic feel to it, and airy,
Yeah.
But them LMR naturals are nice. I've got the patchouli. The patchouli heart, patchouli core.
Yes.
I have that material. It's a really nice. It's probably my favorite patchouli oil. It's high. It's basically higher in a material called patchouli, which gives it that sort of desired effect. And it's sort of, it's just a really nice full of patchouli, and it smells a bit less damp. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I do. I've smelled all of them. You can get the sample set. I remember Persiles did a live with the guy, and he gave out like a code during the live. And I got a sample of the rose. And I thought the rose was quite nice, but I thought it was a bit basic. I thought it was. I don't know if you've ever smelled it. I think you have. I think either you or Maria smelled it, and you were like, "This is very."
Yeah, there's a lot of the Accord. There's a lot of
synthetic.
Yeah, well, there is a touch of it in there, but it's actually a lot of geraniol and citronella, which are the 2 materials. It's really big on those 2, and that's why it smells so. When you get it, you get like a real punch in the face from the rose. It's like it really, it's very up, and that's usually because like some rose, like I have a rose absolute. It's high more in linalool content, so it's almost lemony.
Yeah,
that makes sense. And then you get some that are more rich in geraniol, which are a bit more jammy, and more rich in Damascus, are a bit more winey. Like different oils aren't always the same, and you can use them in different ways. So
no, I didn't. I don't know what you're saying. Speaking of it, Damascus, what perfume did you say you smelled a lot of Damascus in recently?
Balenciaga palm, actually.
That's right.
Because it's the plumminess. You was talking about the purple fruit. There's like a sort of, and I get that, and it's the Damascus in it. It's given that plummy, which is and I never got that initially. I remember saying I don't really get red fruits, and I remember you telling me, and you were right. And then I picked up I just one day I smelt the material in it, which is interesting.
Yeah. And you realised it was what must have been in Balenciaga Pour Homme.
Yeah, that stuff's good. God.
I absolutely love it. Like, it's fucking phenomenal. I won't let Balenciaga ruin it for us, even though they're trying as hard as they possibly can.
Yeah.
Absolute bastards.
When, do you know that's discontinued? When did it get discontinued?
It wasn't long. It wasn't out for long. I think it might have been. I mean, Anuj will probably be able to tell more accurately, but I think it might have been like a matter of like 5 years, if that.
Yeah.
You know,
it must have been a flop.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it was a flop. Yeah, there was only ever one run. It didn't get it wasn't around long enough to be reformulated. And I think it was definitely discontinued by the time that Crystal Ball came out in the year 2000, which was made by the same perfume. Sorry?
Did that do better, Crystal Ball?
I don't know if it did better. It smells much more like a perfume of its time.
Yeah.
The late 90s, early 2000s, where that benzoine, Jaipur Purom, B-Men, beginnings of metrosexual sort of perfume came in, you know. It's hard because that was what led eventually to Dior Homme. You know, you went from like the Cool Waters and the Yoke Poroms through to Tommy and CK1, and then you went through to Acqua di Gio, and then it went to stuff like Crystal Ball, B-Men, and Jaipur Purom, which were all very much more creamy benzoine vanillic sort of based, and then that led to Dior Homme, which was the iris thing, you know. There's like a it's not a straight line, but there is a line that joins these things. There's like a path, you know. From when Pierre Bourdon, it started with Pierre Bourdon, as many modern perfume trends have, you know. You can look back at the whole pineapple thing, starting with a couple of perfumes he did in the 80s, which I can't remember now. But one perfume which stands out where he was determined to push through this pineapple thing was Coros Fraîcheur. Coros with a pineapple note. Bonkers. You know? Imagine a filthy Juventus.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But in a weird way, I find that pineapple would make sense. Because you know when pineapple goes slightly off, it goes almost cheesy.
Yeah.
And then the sweatiness, and you get what I mean. It's like of all the fruits, it would kind of would work. You know, I'd feel like it would work. But he was playing around with pineapple a lot. Then obviously his student Jean-Christophe Hérault, he
got his hand on that
a lot from him. Clearly,
yeah.
I feel like Juventus, like in of itself, I don't think they'd expected it to be as successful as it was, because for like Pierre Bourdon and even Jean-Christophe, they've been doing fragrances like that, you know, for a while. And, you know, that suddenly you put it in this fancy bottle, it has a cool name. I mean, Juventus is a cool name. I must give it that. Do you know what I mean? Juventus, it's, you know, people remember it. It sounds, I don't know, it sounds like, you know, you should be in a Roman legion wearing it. And, you know, it just took off. And again, it's Ambroxan. When you put a lot of that material in a fragrance, it brings compliments. Do you know Ganymede? The amount of people come in, like, just because they smelt it on someone else, and people saying they smell amazing, and it's the Ambroxan. You know, there's just something in that material that people, and it's a really nice material. I haven't met someone yet that has smelt it in its raw state or diluted and said, I don't like Ambroxan.
Yeah.
You know, it's a nice, it's like really hard to hate. And it just, you know, that's why all these, like even Baccarat Rouge 540 is an overdose of Ambroxan again.
Yeah.
You know, it's a bit of a wonder material. When they overdose that material in particular, it brings compliments.
Yes. We've got a message from a news share that says, pretty sure Balenciaga Pour On was out of production within 3 to 4 years at the most. So I want to say 1993, 1994. And then the news goes on to say that Cristobal was equally pathetic as a seller. Go figure. I totally 100% go along with that. They're just the right perfumes at the wrong time. You know, yeah. Gerard and I love both of them. Cristobal less so. So obviously Balenciaga is like my favorite perfume ever, probably. But the Cristobal, which I've got 2 bottles of, that is, you can smell that. You can smell that in a lot of perfumes that came after it. And very few perfumes which came before it. I'm not saying it's the first, but if you compare it to Jaipur Pour Homme, of which I've got an absolutely amazing bottle, a die cast bottle of that, like from iron. I'm sure it's iron. Is it iron or steel, Anuj? I'm going to turn my cam off while so if I go a little bit funny, hold the stream together, Jura. I'm going to try and find this bottle. But if you compare those 2 fragrances, right, the similarities are like striking. It's almost as if they thought they were onto something, like the next big thing in perfume, like a benzoine vanilla. Where are you now? Is that you? Yes, it is. Like a benzoine vanilla, clean, fresh. It's definitely got some kind of ambroxan type of thing going on in there as well, but it just never caught on. And I'm wondering maybe if they directed it at the wrong crowd, well, no, not the wrong crowd, the wrong gender. If this was released today, brace yourselves, people, because this is quite a bottle. I don't know if you can say that. It is like, it's die cut. That is like, if I wanted to defend myself or something, you know, I'd use this. So it's fresh, spicy.
I get space Egyptian vibes from that.
Yeah, it's definitely got some kind of Egyptian space vibes. You know, the people who think that aliens built the pyramids.
Yeah,
it's definitely got them kind of vibes. You know, spray this a few times and see what happens. Yeah, it's got this kind of slightly off spice, slightly. I mean, on the back it says bergamot, heliotrope, wood, vanilla, nutmeg, cinnamon, clove, and amber. Right, and it does smell like that. It's got a very bracing, crisp feel to it, though.
Yeah,
you know, it's not like a warm amber. It's a bit like oh, what do you like? You've got a little bit of a cleaner vibe to you. I'm not sure I fully like that.
Do you know ambroxan is usually when they, you know, if it's an amber that's more weightless. Do you know like some amber, like a labdanum thick amber vanilla, they feel dense. Like weightless ambers usually is more ambroxan. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has more of a weightlessness to it. You know, ambroxan doesn't feel like a heavy material, but it does have like an amberiness to it, but in a weightless way. It's hard to explain.
Maybe no, I understand. I understand, like a weightless amber. I totally understand what you're saying. Like an amber without the labdanum.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. And do you know, I actually was talking to Freddie about labdanum because he finds benzoin smells a bit sweaty on his skin. And I get what he means. There's that part. I know there's a part where it starts smelling a bit sweaty. But for me, labdanum, after about 12 hours on the skin, you know, really into the dry down, if there's a lot of labdanum, it smells like someone's, you know, when you lick your skin and it has that sort of spitty, not pleasant smell, it leaves that like sort of after smell on your skin, which I'm not a fan of. But I love labdanum from up to that stage, but it does leave this weird, I don't want to say aftertaste, but after smell after a long time.
Yeah,
I've lost you there, haven't I?
I mean, no, not really. I get what you're saying. I knew what you were saying at the beginning, but I was like, what skin's he licking? You know, like if it comes off sweaty, if it, can you smell it on him when he smells of benzoin?
No, I know what he means because I've smelt benzoin material, like the material, and I've put it even on a strip. If you just dilute and put it on a strip, after about 2-3 hours, there's a slight sweatiness to it.
Okay,
there is
like a kind of decaying, like
just
organic,
just
vibe.
BO, body odor, BO,
Yeah.
sweaty armpits. It just is really weird. It does have a slight feel, like that sort of feel to it. Now, obviously, when you dress it up in a perfume and it's in small amounts, you might not get that aspect at all. You know, especially if you got loads of white florals in there when the indole is hitting your face. You know, that might not come through.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm smelling this Jai Pour Homme. It's got it like a cleaner kind of vibe to it. You know, it's almost astringent, but it smells much nicer on skin than it does in the air. I sprayed some on my.
Yeah, paper strips. All they do is slow down the evaporation process, and there's other things like there is a sense of skin chemistry that comes into it, because we have different oil levels on our skin, how dry it is. You know, the skin pH is slightly different, and also how you perceive the smell on you, and how others perceive it on you is a lot comes into it. So when you're working in a perfume shop, or when you're letting people smell your perfumes, you have to put it on skin. Because I've had people go, they love it, and they put it on skin and go, yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially, you know, if you're not really into fragrance. But I find, you know, like when you're like us, sometimes we don't even buy a fragrance to put on our skin. We just want to smell it. Like, how many times you spray things on strip because you just want to smell it?
No, I do. I get what you're saying. No, what I usually do is I spray some on my arm or on my hand. I wear a scent of the day, and then by the end of the day, I'm actually wearing about 5 scents of the day, because I've got one on the back of my left hand, one on the back of my right hand, one on my right forearm, and one on my left forearm. You know what I mean? Like I'll do that. Like, yeah, you're totally right. You do buy, like, people like us. We will buy, and I mean people in the chat as well. People with collections. We will buy fragrances just so we can smell them, not necessarily wear them.
Yeah, and a lot of people aren't like that. You know, people want to wear it, and if they don't like wearing it, or they find it's something they can't wear, they won't buy it, no matter how great the idea is. You know.
Yeah.
So, and look, perfume was originally like niche fragrances and made things that people want to be more interested in that. But perfume originally was made to be worn. It was made to be, a lot of the time, to be attractive and sexy. You look at those old ads from 1920s and 30s. It was all sex. You know, it was all like to be, for ladies especially. You know, you wear this and a man will desire you. You know, it was really, and as you know, as Tom Ford says, sex sells. You know, that's the reason why he has a $2 billion company sold. He built it on sex, basically.
Yes.
Now people, they just want to smell like interesting, or they want to smell different, and like, or people just, as Freddie says, some people just want to smell like chemical waste these days.
Yeah, well, he's right. I totally agree with him. Like, totally agree with him. Some people just want to smell like amber woods. You know, I really hate amber woods. I really hate amber woods.
Yeah.
God almighty.
That's why I was surprised when you used to say Julian Rasconnay was your favorite perfumer, like young perfumer, and I thought, like, everything, not everything, but a lot of what he does is a lot of amber extreme, and I think it's because I know it's a material by, I think, IFF, so, you know, it's a material that he's, you know, for his company, and he does pack it, and a lot of ouds, like these oud Middle Eastern fragrances, are all packed with amberwoods. Like Ombre Nomade has it. And it's lovely when it's balanced nicely, but there is a lot in there. You need them to be Middle Eastern, if that makes sense. That's why they're so powerful usually.
Yeah. The one of the main reasons I thought that. Excuse me, I'm gonna have to hydrate. Hold on. Wow, throat went very dry very quickly there. One of the reasons I really like Julian Raskin is Russian Tea by Musk Milano. And this is absolutely glorious. Have you ever smelled it?
No.
Oh, God. It's so good. I didn't know that you'd never smelled it. I'll send you some. Yeah, I had to buy a bottle of this. There was a stand that went up in my local department store, and the lady had Rosendo Mache's brand, which is shit. God rest his soul, but it was absolutely appalling. And the Mas Milanos as well. And I was like, ooh, and they also had, which is the perfume brand that did Iris Fauve, Atelier des Eaux. Atelier des Eaux, they also had them. But it had Russian tea, and I bought a bottle immediately, even though they're fucking 35ml bottles, and it's absolutely ridiculous because it makes you not want to wear them. They are nice. They are nice looking, you know? They are nice looking, but it's brilliant. It's mint. It's like berries. It's birch, which is almost certainly an amber wood that he's used, you know, because he's not going to use real birch because he's not allowed.
No, you can.
Can you?
Yeah, you can, but there's only a certain amount. You can only use it to a certain level, but it's so strong. Like you know, Hyde by Harry Green.
Yes,
that's chock. That's got like near enough the maximum amount of birch tar you can use. That stuff.
Yeah, well, it shows as well because it's shit.
Yeah, you can use it, but you have to use the rectified form.
Yes.
Which, I mean, to be fair, there's not that much. Like you know, the oak moss. Like you can use IFRA compliant oak moss as much as you want. Like people say, oak moss is. I mean, you can normal like the old oak moss you can't use anymore. Like I have some of the old stuff, and I have the IFRA compliant stuff, which is IFRA 48 that is compliant with, and that's what we still use as regulation. It has the atronol and chloroatronol removed, and all oak moss now uses that. That's what's being produced. But the thing is, they don't want to use it because it's just stylistic. You know, they don't want to use lots of oak moss in fragrances anymore because they think no one will buy it. So they put lots more ambroxan in because that sells and that gives people compliments.
Yes. No, I do. I agree with you. I agree.
It's honestly, people. It's like it's a. Now, I'm gonna tell you something. I'm not as pro IFRA maybe as I was because I've talked to some perfumes and they still call them crooks. But anyway, I'm not going to go any further in that. Okay. A lot of the thing they do is it's all about money and style and what sells. A lot of reform, if they're going to spend the money to reformulate, it's because no, this is not selling enough and we have to make it appeal to people.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand that oak moss was a big thing in the 70s and the 80s, and maybe it's a little bit before that as well. And then some materials just go out of fashion. And frankly, the older the material, the less profit there is in it, probably. You know, because it's been around a long time. The production of has been like got to a point where it's not newer chemicals will yield better. What was I going to say? Like results, is like profits. Sorry.
Yeah. Do you know? So, like, Ambrennoside's been around for nearly 40 odd years.
I think I remember you telling me this.
And Ambroxan's been around for longer. A lot of these materials have been, you know, that some of them, I can't remember what one, like Hedion was discovered in the 60s. A lot of the materials we use were discovered very early on. Very early on. But it's just wait, you know, like one like ethyl maltol was quite early, I think 30s or 40s, and it wasn't until Olivia Cresp overdosed in Angel that everyone really wanted to start using it.
Yeah.
You know? So these things are always there. Like the new materials that, you know, we're getting, like, let me think of a new material. What's a new material? Poivron. It's a peppery type of material that came out in the 2000s. It's now available. That no one's really using that, even though it's a new material, because you know there's not the, you know, the taste for out there, unless there's a fragrance that's going to be made, a Dior that overdoses in it, and everyone else will start using that material in that way, and then it becomes popular. But that could be 30, 40 years. Sometimes there's a catch up, you know.
Yes.
So it's a strange one.
It is. It's unusual. I remember. What was it? Was it ethyl maltol? How long had that been around before Pierre Bourdon started like murdering people with it?
Dihydromercenol.
Dihydromercenol, not my ethyl maltol.
Pierre Bourdon. Well, I think with Green Irish Tweed come out before Cool Water. I think
it was 84.
Yeah, that was probably because Kouros has a lot of dihydromercenol. It's like a lot of patchouli, dihydromercenol, animalis. Like they're really sort of like the pillars, like the structure, the skeleton that everything else is hanging on. Like the reason that's, you know, like Kouros has that very clean and very dirty thing.
Yes.
It's the dihydromercenol is giving that really clean thing, and the animalis is giving the real dirtiness. And do you know what? I actually think it's a masterstroke, that fragrance, because in a weird way, them two materials go together so well.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's one of those things. Even if you don't know why, you know that fragrance is genius. You know, it is. It's one of those things. Like I couldn't have said as far on a chemical level what you've just said about the different materials, but getting those two sides of the perfume to talk to each other, and not only talk to each other but to sing, you know, and give off the overall effect is utter genius. Like it's a massive achievement of like linear thinking, you know, like how did you do that, you know?
I know.
Like for the first time, you know?
Like Pierre Bourdon's career was quite brave. And I think like these really successful French perfumers, they all have the skill to make everything that everyone else was making at the time. But they take this sort of brave step to, do you know, like when you overdose a material, it's quite scary because your brain's telling you you've put too much of this in. Do you know what I mean? You almost feel like you've made an imbalance. And I know I heard Olivia Cresp was like, it took him quite a while to make Angel with ethyl maltol, and it was a while before he was happy with it. But I think there was a point he must thinking like, God, you know, I'm really putting my neck out here by making this sort of really strong cotton candy floss material stand out. You know, because surely there's that temptation to want to just bring it back so it smells balanced, but then it will smell like everything else everyone's producing.
Yes.
And Pierre Bourdon really, by that brave step, it might have paid off, it might not have paid off. You know, pretty much changed men's fragrances from that point on. You know, because men's fragrances before that Pierre Bourdon overdose of dihydromercenol were different. You know, it was different. Dihydromercenol was still used, but not to that, you know, to create that effect. It felt like a totally new thing that we were smelling.
Yeah.
So, I think it's brave.
It is. It's brave. It's very brave. You've got to give credit to the brands as well, and I'm loath to give credit to fucking, especially designer brands, because none of them are brave like that anymore. But it makes you realize that 40 years ago, 30, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, there was a lot more openness to risk. You know, it's so dialed in at the minute. It feels as though there's such a narrow band. I mean, I say this as I polish I polished Gucci Guilty Absolute in my hands, which is one of the best releases of the decade, in my opinion, designer-wise, anyway. And it's an Alberto Marias, so it's not as if the fucker can't do it. It's just that he doesn't. It's that. Like the environment has become so negative and toxic towards like difference, you know?
Yeah.
Like creativity. I mean, it stifles creativity. It's not, nobody's saying don't be creative, but what they are saying is they're saying like be creative, but just make sure that it works. You know, make sure that we can sell everything.
Yeah.
To
be fair to Alberto Marias, he's releasing so much that he could be releasing absolute gems, and you can't keep up with them, so you don't even know. You know, I haven't smelled. Yeah. You know, he's probably released about 1,000 perfumes in the last 20 years. God knows, there's probably some really good ones in there, but you know, there's always, it's just trying to find them. But it's like, what was I going to say? Like, the reason Ganymede, because Ganymede's a really successful fragrance, by the way. Like,
yes, you spoke about this before.
Seriously, like as someone who's witnessing it on the street, it's overtaking Portrait of a Lady. Let me put it that way, in terms of.
I smelled Portrait of a Lady in the wild today.
Ah.
I smelled it in the wild. I nearly said something, but I didn't bother because the woman was acting like a cat.
I smell it. Yeah, I smell it everywhere. I had one guy says, I'm looking for something unique. And he says, have you got Portrait of a Lady? I said, look, I was honest with her. I said, look, this won't be the most unique smell in Dublin. You know, a lot of people are wearing this. But Ganymede is just, I mean, it walks itself out the door. And I don't bother showing it. There's no point. You know, I feel like it's a waste of time. I'd rather show someone else something interesting. There's always going to be people who want it. And to be fair, I think Quentin Biche done a really good job with that. I don't really like the fragrance, and I don't own it, and I wouldn't wear it myself, but I respect it. I really do.
No, I agree. I agree totally. Like, you would think it would be the type of fragrance I hate, and I do. That's not my taste, but I respect it hugely because it's totally different from a lot of whatever else is out there, and yet it seems to be very popular and fair play. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. DJ's. I've just seen a comment there. DJ, like, people. I find, like, I when I talk about fragrance, a lot of people, like, when I've seen people say they don't like rose. I've had this. I said I don't like rose, but I wear Portrait of a Lady. You're like, okay, like, obviously I don't want to be rude and say it has rose in it. I would just say okay, and I will show them something else they might like also. But that's why I think sometimes it's not always good to talk notes with these people, because patchouli. When I say, this has got patchouli and benzoin and neroli, that means nothing. So you know Una Marette. I'll give an example. Una Marette from Atelier with Orange.
Yes.
I always say, like, okay, it's a lot of akigala wood, which is a type of patchouli oil that's been fractionated. It's peppery. It's got neroli. But that doesn't mean anything to them. Yeah. A lot of people, unless, like, I do get some people really into, like, notes and, like, you know, like the wine tasting type, and they want to know this stuff, and it's great, and I love talking about fragrances. But usually I would look at someone, if it's the person I find it would suit them, that fragrance, their personality, how they dress. I often say, Una Marette, I call it the happy goth. For me, this reminds me of a goth that's happy. There's a darkness in there, but there's also a light. Do you know what I mean? There's an uplifting quality, but it's also dark. I try and sell the feel. I try and tell them the feeling of the fragrance, and whether they can connect with that. And usually they can understand that more. Because if I say to someone, this is akigala wood, it's patchouli, it doesn't mean anything to a lot of people. They don't know what patchouli smells like. They don't even care what patchouli smells like. Yeah. You know, sometimes just you learn that talking about notes is not always the way to go. Like Jubilation Woman from Amouage. This is a power fragrance. You know, if you're a lady or you want to go for a meeting, this is something, as a statement. or give
Yes.
you a very feeling of opulence. This is something they can connect with.
Yeah, like a power suit sort of thing.
Yeah. And that's usually what people understand. So most people just don't really care that much, and you have to and you can't take it personally. Like if someone doesn't like something, you can't go, how dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you not like that?
Yes. I love that. How dare you not like it? I find that with some sales associates. If I say that I don't like if I don't like one of their fragrances or two of their fragrances or whole brand, then the sales associate will get like upset, like offended. You know what I mean? It's like, no, I'm not saying I don't like you. You know, it's the same. It's the same as it is in the fragrance community. You know,
Yeah.
people are like very attached and they see their fragrances as like an extension of like their personality, which it can be in a way, you know, but it has to come from a good place.
Yeah.
Like you can't just be like a fucking miserable shit and be like, sorry if the screen went a bit wobbly there. You can't just be like a miserable shit and be like, oh, you fucking hate me fragrance. That means you hate me as well.
Yeah.
I was like, no, it's like, you could be like, oh, I don't like that person's haircut, or I don't like that person's foot. It's like, Jesus Christ, just chill the fuck out, man.
Yeah.
You know?
No, you can't. You got to. And I always say, look, that's fine. If it's not for you, it's not for you. And then actually, it's always like, for me, it's always useful to know what they don't like, because you know what not to show them next time.
Yes.
Do you know, like if you give someone has a big jasmine, though, oh no, I'm like, okay, I think these type like a big jasmine fragrance is not for you. I wouldn't say that, but in my head I'm thinking that, and you show them something else. And do you know, I remember, I tell you, there was one time this lady come in. She was really lovely. She must have been in there 45 minutes with me. We had a long discussion. She wanted in, come and buy something very white, pretty floral. Do you know what
Right.
she ended up walking out? She loved Black Afghana. And you would not have predicted that. And the way she looked, you know, we went on a little journey, and then she ended up going, she loved that, and then that's what she wanted.
Yeah.
What can you say? You know, it's just sometimes it's a journey, and it's almost like a dance with people to find what they like. Yeah. Someone said about Ensalade by Mark Anton Barra. That is huge. It's absolutely huge. I find that a beastly perfume.
Not sales wise though.
Huh?
Sales wise, or in like a performance.
No, the actual fragrance.
All right.
It's big. Like you spray one little spray of that in the shop, even though there's other things, and you'll smell it everywhere. And do you know that thing's relentless? It just keeps. I smelled it on someone. They sprayed it at 9 o'clock in the morning. I seen them 8 o'clock that evening, and it was still going strong as it was in the first 10 minutes.
Whoa!
And it's almost linear. It's a big vetiver, lots of gaiac wood, isobutylquinoline, the leathery stuff, and it's got this really big fruity. It's supposed to be rhubarb,
Yes.
but it just always, that fruitiness never leaves. It's really big. For me, it's very traditionally masculine, if that makes sense. It's very green, but God, it's huge. Absolutely. Do you know, I'd say it's probably one of the strongest fragrances I've smelled.
That's to me, that's like Promise. I haven't worn Promise yet. I usually wear Promise because I bought Promise in like February of the year that I bought it. It was like a couple of years ago. I usually wear it in like January, February, so I'm probably going to whip it out at some point. But that, to me, that fragrance is almost too much. It's so huge.
I think Onslaught is bigger than Promise. Can you believe that?
Oh.
Honestly. And it's not like, it's a different type of big. You know, like how Interlude Man is big, just how smoky it is, and thick, and leathery. It has that sort of impact, if that makes sense. It's just really big. It's not long lasting, like you get this wisp of ambroxan after like 14 hours. Like it just keeps on going. It's relentless. You know, it won't stop. You put 3 sprays of that, you're stuck with it for the next 24 hours. You know, I call them commitment fragrances.
Yes. Yes.
And do you know what I find? Sorry, I'm talking a lot here, but
No. Please do.
When it comes to fragrances now, I'm actually gravitating towards light ones. The reason being, I hate it when you go to put on a fragrance and you want to enjoy that, and then you put on a t-shirt or something, and you've got that other fragrance that was beastly still on it. And you can't wear the one you want to wear because that one's just like there in the background.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to try and change your shirt and all that. Whereas, you know, if a fragrance lasts 6 hours, I'm like, good, I'll just spray it again. Do you know what I mean? But I know tomorrow I can enjoy something else.
Yeah. I do know what you mean, because that happened to me the other day. And you literally, what you can do is, right, like sometimes I'll wear like different items of clothing, you know, like if I go out into town, then I'll put on some like smart jeans, and I'll put on like a jumper and stuff like that, and like the hat, the flat cap. I've got this flat cap. I can't remember where I got it from. I put on this flat cap Jura Rose, and I go out, right, and then I'll come home and I'll be like, well, bollocks, I'm not wearing like me better clobber when I'm just like laying about the house. So I'll put on like me like things, and it's like you can take one fragrance and like literally put it onto another garment, like, you know what I mean? Like with these like really massive chemicals that they use now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's got this kind of it's to the point now where a lot of fragrances used to be trying to mimic nature or smell like something that you would discover in nature, and now it feels like perfume has tried to get as far away from that as they possibly can.
Yeah.
You know?
It feels unnatural. It's like and I just find there's a point, like, you know, if everything is this is like a very boring conversation. Everyone in the chat, I'm preaching to the choir here. But if something, surely, even if it's half, like, not that great, but it's performing well, do you really want to be around it for that long?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Do you really want to be stuck with, you know, this heavy amber extreme for like 12 hours? Like, do you really enjoy smelling the amber extreme that long? Is there a point where you just like, yeah, it would be lovely if Balenciaga Pour Homme lasted, you know, well, it does actually last. That's a bad example. But, you know, like think of like a nice cologne scent that you like, its very last 2 hours. It'd be lovely if it lasted like that for 12 to 14 hours. But sadly, as nature intended, citrusy materials, some of these nice florals don't last long. You know, they're very fleeting. But I find a kind of a beauty in that. You know, you smell it and you experience it, but then at the same time, just respray it. You can experience it again. You don't have to be stuck with these long, obnoxious smells just because you want it to last. You know?
No, I agree. I have a friend who wears not IBQ. What the fuck is it? Isole Super. Like, I got her a bottle once. Like, I bought myself, and Richie G bought himself a bottle of Isole Super. Right? I think it was diluted in alcohol or something, you know. And I got it and I smelled it and I was like, and I went and gave it to my friend because it was like all of 15 quid. And she still wears that. She's gone through a couple of bottles. She still wears that to this day. Just Isole Super.
She's a right geezer.
She's a right geezer. Yes, that's right. She absolutely loves it. You know, it just smells clean and crisp, and it lasts all day, and she can always smell it. And that's what a lot of people want. DJ was making this point at the top. It's a slightly different point, but he was like, DJ said, people don't ask how something smells first. They ask how long and how it performs. That's the market and the masses these days. My friend's slightly different because she actually really likes the way Isole Super smells. But then most people do.
I mean, it's not
You know?
bad. I don't hate Ice Sweet Super.
No, it's not bad. It's not
I
a bad
prefer
material.
Ambroxan. I do prefer Ambroxan. That's just a personal taste. It's not like bad, but yeah, I don't love it.
I don't like Ambroxan, I must admit. It's got that metallic sort of edge to it that I don't like. Whereas where I find ISOE Super has a more sort of flinty kind of, stone, wet stone kind of vibe to it. You know what I mean? It's dangerously close. You know what I mean? It's very close to being like a it's dangerously close to being like a metallic sort of thing, but it's not. It's stone. It's like grey stone. You know.
Do you know what material gives me wet stone vibes? Cashmeran. Cashmeran, and do you know a lot of so ain't like Dominic Ropion loves using cashmeran. It's big in ladies' florals. It's usually if you put a lot of that material in a fragrance, a lady usually tends to more like it because of a lot of ladies' fragrances. Like Alien by Thierry Mugler is a cashmeran bomb. And people, do you know, like I've noticed a lot of ladies really like. This is just me experience. They like, you know, like the type of oud, Tom Ford oud wood style fragrances, that style of oud, because they have a lot of cashmeran in them, but it's used differently. Instead of flowers, it's used to make the oud accord. But they have this. They really like that material, and it does smell nice. I know it's supposed to smell like cashmere and wool and stuff, but I get like a wet stone vibe from it.
Okay.
It comes as like a gel. It's a weird material. But yeah, like a lot of like Tom Ford oud wood has a lot. It's the oud accord, and that's like I think I don't know if there's a real oud. I really doubt it. But it's cypriol and cashmeran and some other materials that create that oudy accord smell. And ladies really, I think they like it on men as well because it's a different style of a material they like. If that makes sense.
Yes.
I'm not saying everyone likes cashmeran, by the way, but it's like a sort of. I think men more like Ambroxan. That's why Juventus was a boxer dropper.
Yeah.
If Juventus had lots of cashmeran, it would have been, you know, put it that way.
For me, Juventus is now. I mean, a lot of people know this and realize this and recognize this for what it is, but Juventus is now like a status symbol, you know, amongst a certain section or subsection of like society, you know. It's not so much a perfume as it is like people don't. It's to the point now with Juventus, right? That people don't call it Juventus; they call it Creed. Like, are you wearing Creed?
Yeah, I've had that. You're so right. I've had that, and then I always go, "What? Sorry, what Creed? Is it Juventus?" I think so. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, the one. Yeah, the one in the air, the black and the black bottle thing. You know.
Yeah.
It's strange. It's strange how some perfumes latch on, you know, and define like an era.
Yeah.
Or become. I mean, we're living in an era. I mean, we're living in an era at the minute where it's like everybody. I mean, everything for the gram. You know what I mean? It's like everybody's doing everything so they can take pictures of themselves doing it. You know, people aren't interested in the activity. They want people to know that they're doing the activity. That's the thing now. You know what I mean? It's like people say that they climb Everest. It's not enough to say that you climbed Everest. You've got to have pictures, and you've got to have people liking your picture. You know?
Do you know you said about the Instagram? The biggest driver for a lot of fragrance is TikTok now. We got a lot of people coming saying they've seen this on TikTok. They want to try this on TikTok. We had a fragrance TikToker come into the shop. She was a nice, quite young lady, really nice. But she, the influence these people have is they're bigger than YouTube. YouTube
Oh yes,
and Instagram, TikTok's a big thing now for fragrance. It's like a whole. I think Jeremy Fragrance has even moved more to TikTok, hasn't he?
yes. All his videos are TikTok based now, apparently.
Yeah, there's a reason. You know, it's really big there.
Yeah, it's not something I could. I mean, what it does is it hacks people's like shitty attention spans that they've got now. Do you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
that's what it is. I mean, fucking, I've heard a lot of stuff on the news about it being Chinese spyware. You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
it's like,
I don't need that, Rich. I don't need.
you know, you don't. No, I don't. I know what you're saying. You've got your own Chinese spyware to contend with. But it's such a strange thing. It's not like I couldn't like. For me, one of the best things about YouTube is like learning. You know what I mean? And one of the problems, the longer you've been involved with like this hobby and like stuff like that, unless you go into basically what you've done, like learning how to make perfumes and stuff, you sort of come up against like a firewall. Like you've learned everything you're gonna learn about perfume, you know, and it's like it's unless, I mean, don't get us wrong, there's plenty of scope and space for new stuff to come along, and there's always new product and stuff like that, but the consumerism aspect of it sort of like gets old after a while, and you want to sort of, you want something deeper, you want something like richer, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. No, I think YouTube is, I think because it's well established as a video platform. I mean, I don't hate, I think YouTube, there's some good stuff in YouTube. Like there's, you know, you think there's some good information at your fingertip. Obviously there's bad, but compared to the some of the like TikTok, I'd say YouTube is probably a better tool.
Yes.
I do think it's more. I don't think you can do so much in a short TikTok video when someone's dancing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. It's very youth orientated as well. It's very it's kind of like the modern version of like what Geordie Shore was. Do you know what I mean? It's all built around like that youth culture sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like the whole banter kind of kind of thing and
it's
stuff.
online banter. It's banter moved into like this metaverse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's yeah. I know what you mean.
Did you see the results that Facebook, well, Meta now posted today? The shares are down fucking 64% year on year.
God, I heard Amazon was bad as well.
Is Amazon? I'd be surprised if Amazon was fucked.
Yeah, apparently who was it saying? I knew someone that apparently had like they're really into all that, and there was shares for Amazon went down 40-something%.
God,
yeah,
that is so painful.
Crazy.
Absolutely wounded. If that was me. Exactly, you would have thought Amazon would be like shit hot, like considering like. Well, I mean, to be fair, that maybe they reached the peak during the pandemic because everybody was sat on their ass, which is basically what Amazon's model, isn't it? You sit on your ass and we'll bring everything to you.
Yeah, while whipping someone's ass to get it to you, you know.
Yeah, exactly. We'll whip someone's ass to get it to your fat ass while you lie there and do fuck all.
Yeah.
Mental.
Yeah.
Absolutely mental. Oh God. Have you bought any perfumes this year? I know the answer to this. But just so the people.
Do you know the next purchase I'm going to make is I'm going to get a bottle of 31 Rue Cambon.
Ooh.
And the big one. I don't like the small Chanel ones. I think just if you're going to get them, get the big 200 ml, you know?
Yeah, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it properly.
Yeah. Like I've smelt the EDT. Freddie brought in the EDT as an old the original EDT when it first released, and it does smell nicer in the opening. But the EDP is not that bad. I don't think the EDP's the reform when it did was that bad. So I'm happy to get one, and I think it's a really good iris. Honestly, I mean it's a big patchouli as well, but it's a really nice iris note in that. I really love that.
It's not one that I've ever thought. It's not one that's ever appealed to me. I've got to be honest. That line isn't huge for me. I've got Sycamore EDT, which I'm really glad of. I've got Coromandel EDP, which I rarely wear, but I've also got oh God Almighty, Borneo 1834, which it's by the same perfumer, Christopher Sheldrake, and it was released like 2 years after. It was released 2 years after Borneo 1834, so it's definitely like from his arsenal that he's taken, because that's when he went to Chanel, Christopher Sheldrake, in 2005. So he's obviously like said like, oh, here's the Borneo 1834, we'll tweak it a little bit and release it under Chanel. But like I've got those two, but I've sold Bois d'Azil, I've sold Cuir de Russie, and I'm sure I've sold another one, and I can't remember which one it was.
Wait, so do you not have any more Cuir de Russie left in your collection, or was it just?
I do. I've got the 1980s bottle.
Oh, okay. So you kept a good one for yourself, basically.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. No, I understand that. Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do with most of my collection. Well, not most of my collection, but like quite a few bottles next year. I'm going to focus. I'm going to try and sell. I'm going to try and get my collection down to under 300 bottles if I can, and I'm over 400 at the minute. So,
wow.
I'm going to try and get it down to under 300 bottles. Like so, I'm going to make some.
I must say, you've done well this year as well. Like you haven't just bought fragrances; you've done some good business for yourself.
Yes, I've definitely. I'm going to do a video about it actually. I'm going to do a video. I don't know if you saw Smurfy Girlie's video where she was talking about 7 reasons to stop buying fragrances, or 7 reasons fragrances are ruining your life. I'm not going to go. I asked her. I sent her a voice note. I was like, "Would you mind if I made like a video similar to this?" I'm just trying to formulate. Like, I'm just trying to like get it right in my head before I do it. I'm not going to do why I think fragrances are ruining your life, but I'm going to do about my experience with buying so many fragrances and getting on that whole sort of snowball aspect, and where it gets you and what you go through. I mean, Jesus Christ, like I'm not saying that like I've been abused or anything like that. Like it's not that serious. Do you know what I mean? But what I'm saying is like what I've learned. That would be a good title for the video. What I've learned after like years of collecting fragrances, you know, and the nature of that, because I've definitely got that kind of addictive personality where I like to do things and do them over and over and things like that, you know. Fosco's saying that 300, that would be all of your Balenciagas and 20 others. Mate, there's absolutely no chance I'm getting rid of a Balenciaga, you know. I don't part with those.
I know, but whoever you must really love that person in the world that you'd ever give one to, Rich.
Yes, say. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It's either that or I'd had a massive bang on the head before I decided to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Non-Ciaga pour on. Somebody DJ says non-Ciaga pour on. Do you know what it is? I don't necessarily disagree. Balenciaga can fuck right off.
Yeah, that's you know what, I don't really get into the whole fashion thing. I'm not like, you know, Jacob. But I when I read about that, I thought that's just so wrong. It was so wrong. I don't, you know, they say they were trying to be artistic. I mean,
they were just.
You could spin anything into being artistic, then, can't you? You know.
Yeah.
It's just wrong.
It's bullshit. Like, it's total bullshit. They can fuck right off, but I won't let them ruin my favorite fragrance. Do you know what I mean?
It's not Gerard Anthony's fault. Come on.
No, exactly. It's not Gerard Anthony's fault. It's certainly not my fault. And I'm going to enjoy that perfume, whether Balenciaga are being bastards or not. They can fuck right off. Jura Rose, hold down the fort for a minute. I'm going to dehydrate. You must have known this was going to happen at some point.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I can't drop a lemon, but please drop as many lemons as you can.
Don't.
Do. He loves a lemon. I sent him some lemons for Christmas. Big bag of lemons in a box. What's everybody's scent of the day? I can read them. There's a lot of hate for Balenciaga. I stand with you all. Hello, Michael Harness. How are you? Fragonard Miranda. Coco. Opus 6. Have I tried Night by Acro? Fernando Milan, I cannot remember. I tried some of the Acro. I tried Dark. I've tried Ink. I've tried Haze. I like Dark, but I like chocolate, so don't listen to my opinion on that one. Roger Taif Oud, fancy Ramsey. Very fancy. Expect nothing less. Gucci Guilty Absolute. Did you hear that, Rich? Enrique is wearing one of your favorites. What else? Sorry, it's going very fast. Chypressania. Chanel number 5. You smell like a rich New York lady, and I love it. Purple Oud by Dior. I always feel that that's... Whenever I hear purple, I think Prince. What else? Apparently Prince wore lavender. I heard his scent was just pure lavender oil or something. Sultan Pasha Ansan Shubra, nice one. I know Denby. I've actually spoke to Denby privately, but he's not been here. He loves Sultan Pasha. Anuj. You're wearing a masterpiece. His purpleness, yes. He was a plum. Monsieur by Frederick Malle. I love that. I like patchouli. What else? Fernando Milan. Rose and cumin. I like cumin. I really like cumin in fragrances. It's one of my favorite notes. And I don't like scatol, which is a material that tries to replicate it. I like real cumin. Amouage Enclave, minty. Julien Rascanet, big. But the dry down's quite nice. It has a lot of amber extreme, but it's nice. Noir de Noir.
I love Noir de Noir. I want a vintage bottle of Noir de Noir.
Really?
I do.
Big
I
patchouli.
actually really big patchouli. I love patchouli.
Really big patchouli.
You know, I got a perfume in the post today.
Huh?
I got a perfume in the post today.
Oh, okay. That never happens, does it?
No, it rarely happens. Next year, it's going to be happening even more rarely. But it was a backup, and it is a bottle of Etro's Sandalo.
You really love Etro, and I haven't tried any. I have to try them.
They're fantastic. I don't know what the modern formulations are like, but Etro is a brilliant house. Probably the most underrated designer house that there is. Their perfume, that Goma is a leather that's like, I mean, it was Ramsey that put us onto them. Goma is a leather that is in the style of Knisa 10, but with like imagine it with like an Italian twist, you know, like and not a big twist either, just a little twist.
Yes.
It's fantastic. So I got a backup of the Sandello, which is beautiful, but it's very, very, very softly. Alan Hansen, sorry.
Alan Hansen.
Alan Hansen says, I've owned my bottle of Noir de Noir for many years, but I have no idea if it's vintage or not. The way to tell if it's vintage, right, is if the batch code on the bottom, the 3-digit batch code on the bottom, is in gold lettering. If it's in gold lettering, it's an older bottle. So there you go. If it's in white lettering, it's a newer bottle.
Mm.
That's right. Now, excuse me whilst I medicate.
Meditate?
Medicate.
Oh, okay.
Not meditate. Wow. I'm not talking to Peter here. Talking to Peter. Peter loves to meditate. A fucking big meditator that he is. Oh. That was lovely.
Alan is checking. He's checking if he's got a gold or white writing. Yeah, he's checking.
Checking forthwith. Henceforth.
He's holding it up and he's going, is it to be or not to be?
To be or not to be? That is the question. I've got gold batch code. That's right.
JP Music, excuse me while I meditate.
Mediate. Medicate.
What does it mediate? This is meditate.
Medicate.
Excuse me while I meditate. You should just do that. Just if we get too much of our lemon, just bugger off and just go and meditate.
Yeah, I don't like lemon.
Do you not like lemon in anything?
No, I don't like lemon as a general rule across the board. Don't get us wrong, there are some exceptions that prove the rule. I like Amalfi lemons because they're creamy, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't necessarily like is it a Luron Sport Edition Blanche?
Is that the lemon cheesecakey one?
Yeah, the lemon. Yeah. I don't like that. Okay. So there are very few fragrances that can pull off a lemon vibe for me. I can't think of any off the top of my head. But I really don't care for a lemon.
Do you know the biggest lemon I know is Perfume Aroma Aquaviva?
Yes, we've talked about Perfume Aroma at length, haven't we?
Yeah, that's a big lemon. That's a lemon for lemon. That's just like near enough all lemon oil. At like 40% oil concentration. It's a big, big lemon. Okay. And it just lasts. It's just lemon. For some reason, doctors like that fragrance.
Doctors?
Yeah. I think
we've talked about this before, haven't we?
Yeah, a lot of doctors come in and they like Aquaviva from Perfume Aroma. I don't know if it's the cleanness. I don't know why.
Zhao loves it too. Loewe Pour Homme, yes, that's right. Scented like Zhao says that Loewe Pour Homme. Loewe Pour Homme's a big lemon. It's got big lemons and citruses, and that's probably one of the best lemons I've smelled. Especially the vintage one, especially the really old one. I've got a 70s bottle, and all the notes are still there. You know, all the citrus is still there. Pre-batch code, pre-barcode bottle. It's in a splash. Absolutely stunning. And it's beautiful, and the citrus is just balanced absolutely perfectly. It's probably the best citrus perfume I've smelled. You know.
Interesting. There's a nice one by Healy called No to the Yuzu.
Yes.
It's like a grapefruit.
Nice.
I love yuzu. It's like it smells very similar to grapefruit yuzu. You could almost call it a grapefruit fragrance, but that's a good citrus note in that one. The thing of Healy, he's very honest in his perfumes. Like he does use a lot more natural, but they're very fleeting as well. They're not like some of them. I can't remember. There is a couple that do last quite long, but they're not very. But I don't mind that because some of them smell really nice. I love one called you. Actually, I don't know. It's not really a white floral. It's called Le Mondier. Have you tried that?
Never heard of it.
Okay, Le Mondier is like for me. It's like walking in. You know, that smell when you walk into a florist. It doesn't smell necessarily flowery, but you get like the greenness.
Yes,
it's like that. It's a really nice one. Really nice. I think it's probably one of his best.
Have you smelled many Anik Monados? Not Anik Monados, Anik Gutals.
Yeah, but I can't remember how they smelled. That was a long time ago. And that's not always a good thing. That means that they must not have had an impression on me.
Yeah, there's a lot of perfumes there which just passed me by as well, to be honest. But she did one called Ninfeo Mio, which smells like a garden just before it blooms. So it's very green, it's very verdant, it's getting ready to go. And it was absolutely stunning, and it smelled so green, right? And I loved it, and I literally picked up a bottle and said to the bloke, "Come on, then we'll go, and I'll buy it." And I thought, just before we go, I was like, I'll just spray some on my skin so I can smell it on the way home. Fucking sprayed it on my skin, and it turned to absolute chemical waste. It smelled so bad on my skin. It was so rough.
Yeah,
it was horrible. It's like Paul Monsieur ADT by Chanel. Absolutely.
You know, one of the few, like, there's a fragrance I tried, and this was back when it first came out, and I actually don't mind Cécile Zarokian as a perfumer. I like some of her stuff. I like Epic Woman by Amouage, for example. But she did one for Nishane called Annie, and I smelled it in the store. It was one of the few fragrances I had to personally scrub off my skin. There's just something, I'm not the biggest fan of lemon and vanilla overdosed together. And that one has a lot of lemon and a lot of vanilla for me. And it just made, you know, when you feel like you want to be sick, you smell something. Like it just doesn't sit with you. And I thought, no, it's not like a preference. Like, I don't like that smell. It made me feel sick. And I had to scrub that off quick. And I know people who love it. And I'm like, well, that's, but it's, it's all personal.
No, I know what you mean. I do know what you mean. Alan says, correction, the lettering is in gold, but it also has A40 in white. I suppose that's the batch code. That is the batch code, and it means it is newer. Unfortunately, it is not an old one. Although it can still have some age, because they changed this around in like 2014 or something like that. So it could still be like an old formula, but because Estee Lauder renew their batch codes every 10 years, which is an absolute pain in the arse, then it's only going to be within the last 10 years that. Yes. On that note, Jura Rose, I am a tired man, and I am going to go to sleep. I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to go to sleep.
And you're going to hug Celia.
That's right. I'm going to spoon my seal. I'm going to hold that seal.
I haven't asked you this. Has your other one arrived?
No, not yet. Not yet, Cecile. I've got a Cecile coming, a big one. And because my mate's wife sent us a link, and I was like, oh, God, there it is. I thought I've got to have it. Clearly, I've got to have it. How could I not? And so it's coming, but it's in the country apparently, but it's just not with the delivery driver yet. It's been stuck for like 4 or 5 days.
She is a unit, though, isn't she?
She is a big unit. Don't worry about that. It's a big unit, like an 80 centimeter seal. You know,
you've got to
almost.
show everyone your two seals one day on the live stream.
I'll do a community post.
Yeah,
I'll do a community post.
Absolutely.
Everybody can see them. But yes, thank you very much, Jura.
Thank
Say
you.
goodbye to everybody. Thank you.
Yeah. And thanks everyone. And I've missed a lot of people's comments, and I feel bad. And if I've missed them, I apologize. Love to you all.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you to everybody who has commented, to everyone who has donated, and everyone who has liked the stream. Appreciate it greatly. And me and Jura Rose wish you a Merry Christmas. I will be back on Christmas Day. I may do another StreamYard stream so I can invite people on. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But for now, it is good night. See you later, everyone.
Good night. Bye-bye.